Hello and welcome back to the Red Path. Today we're going to do another unit analysis video, this time looking at Helbrutes. Unlike the noble dreadnoughts of the Loyalists, the existence of a Helbrute is one of eternal pain and torture. To be interred in the cursed sarcophagus of a Chaos Dreadnought is no blessing, and is indeed perhaps the greatest punishment available to a heretic Astartes. The accounts of traitor marines wishing for any option other than such imprisonment indicate the true horror of what such a life must entail. These are hardened veterans of centuries of bloody warfare, who have wholly committed their souls to damnation in the warp upon their demise, and even under this duress they would prefer literal hell over the ascent into such a fate. The Helbrutes are a sort of mutation amongst the traitors' demonically infused war engines. Originally dreadnought chassis from the heresy that survived Terror began to deform and transmute into horrific abominations, driving their parasitic pilots insane. As these resources dwindled, as any weapon of war is wont to do, the forge worlds of the Dark Mechanicum began to relentlessly churn out armoured shells to be filled with any trained marine who could be found to be forced inside. Outside of battle, the pilots are unceremoniously removed from the sarcophagus and the shell chained up lest a remnant sliver of consciousness remains conjoined to the machine spirit. Upon reaching a new deployment, the Helbrutes will be set loose, most commonly as a first wave of heavy shock assault assets, not expected to survive but rather to destabilise and demoralise enemy lines. Various legions utilise specialist formation tactics in their use of Helbrutes, but no such specific records exist for those favoured by the World Eaters. The only known information unique to the 12th Legion's usage is that of the famed Berserker Dreadnought, a modified Ferrum Infernus pattern improved with greater size and speed, specifically designed to be a line-breaking behemoth of slaughter. Helbrutes currently still use their 8th edition codex entries as expected. To be honest, I rarely use them in anything but the fluffiest of games. They're not terrible, but they never brought anything to the table that I didn't have elsewhere. With the stat line basically identical to their Loyalist counterpart, the Helbrute has 8 inches of movement, 3 up ballistic skill and weapon skill, strength 6, toughness 7, 4 attacks base and a 3 up save. They do benefit fortunately from Legion traits, malicious volleys and hateful assault. They explode to deal D3 mortal wounds within 3 inches, they gain an additional attack if they are equipped with 2 melee weapons, and they have the crazed rule. That is, anytime they take a wound, at the end of the phase roll a D6. On a 6, shoot or fight depending on engagement status. Normally pointing out anywhere from 130 to 160 odd points, they just lack that X factor you want in a unit. They're not resilient enough to stand up to much more than las guns. Mass bolters will bring them down quickly enough. They're not mobile enough to get into the thicker things combat-wise, and they aren't accurate or well equipped enough to reliably put out constant firepower. However, they do possess some pretty good synergies in a World Eaters list that can improve them quite considerably. First, they gain the additional combat attack on the charge, so as a World Eater you'll probably want to give them at least 1 melee arm. Second, they currently benefit from character rerolls, so 3 of these, equipped with las cannons and missile launchers surrounding Khan, suddenly become quite a threat. Third, the stratagems Fire Frenzy and Blasphemous Machines affect them, the former allowing a shoot twice like ability, and the latter ignoring movement penalties. Personally, I would only ever use these if equipped with las cannons. Now, I'm not much of a fan of las cannons, but one thing World Eaters lack is high strength, high AP, high damage weaponry. Sometimes you need something to just punch right through armour and kill. I would also want to invest in them en masse, 3 equipped with las cannons and fists for example, or double down on the firepower and rock las cannons with missile launchers, and keep Khan close by to improve their efficiency. Using Fire Frenzy as it currently exists essentially gives a 4th Helbrute for a phase, which is a pretty nice chunk of efficiency. But what can we expect for the brutes in 9th edition? Actually, quite a lot. I'm tentatively excited for what we may be getting rules-wise. If all the indications we've been given so far hold true, we should be having some good times with these badass models. So far we can be confident that we will gain the following buffs. 1. No penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons. 2. -1 to all damage received, making things like plasma or autocannons less offensive. 3. An alteration to crazed, which will allow rerolls to wounds of 1 when they have 7 or less wounds. 4. Fire Frenzy replaced with Fire Fever or similar, which is a stratagem that gives +1 to hit and +1 to wound, with some restrictions. And 5. A gain of 1 attack base. They did lose Hateful Assault, but 1 attack all the time is better than 1 attack on the charge. The Death Guard Helbrute has 6 inches of movement, which could be a fluffy thing as they are generally slow and methodical. Other than that, the only major change is now we can't take 2 Power Scourges. So, given that most of this is beyond speculation but not quite confirmed, what do I think this will mean for World Eater's Helbrutes in 9th edition? Honestly, it is going to depend on Legion traits, stratagems, and whether the information listed is accurate. I think if we get anything even slightly better than +1 attack on the charge, and let's be honest, it was probably the second worst trait from the Chaos Space Marine Codex, with the word bearers getting shit on the most there, but if we get anything better than that, it will only make them even more awesome. The synergy between Crazed and Fire Fever, if we gain both of those, is incredible. With a twin las cannon, a Helbrute can hit Mortarion on 2s, assuming there's no debuffs to hit, re-rolling with a nearby Lord or Khan, as the Brute does look to gain core, and we will also wound Mortarion on 2s with Fire Fever, re-rolling 1s due to Crazed, if on 7 wounds or less, forcing him to an invulnerable save and likely putting a few wounds on him. This is far from broken, but it goes to show that we will have options in dealing with big bad models from range with a relatively cheap and significantly tougher murder platform. Alternative to this, we could just max out melee weapons, or maybe a fist and cheaper anti-infantry gun, and charge straight up the centre as the fluff expects, and use them to destabilise and demoralise and absolutely destroy our opponents. Honestly, I think Helbrutes are going to be a winner for us in the 9th edition Codex. At least I hope so. They're such an iconic and cool unit, and as they were a staple of the old stock collecting box and the Dark Vengeance set, we've all probably got 1 or 2 in our collections floating around. Alright, that wraps it up for this one. Let me know in the comments how you think Helbrutes will end up with the new Codex. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a thumbs up. If you didn't, well, hit that thumbs down button. And as ever folks, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn.